All right, so today we're diving into something a little different. All right, it's a CV, but not just any CV. We're taking a look at the career of Azlan bin AYOB.
Right.
And really kind of trying to understand how his experience reflects this idea of how safety and health and just operational smarts all kind of weave together.
Yeah.
Especially in, industries where things are, high stakes.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about oil and gas, right?
Yeah.
Offshore platforms. And it's about more than just like listing his job titles,
Yeah.
It's about what his journey tells us about keeping things running smoothly and safely when the pressure's on.
Exactly.
And what's really interesting is that Azlan's done a lot.
Yeah.
He's gone from, direct medical care to like shaping big picture, QHSE strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of breadth.
And that's what we're going to kind of unpack today.
Looking forward to it.
So what stands out to you right off the bat? Like just looking at his CV.
Well, I think just the variety of roles he's had, right? It's not like a straight line from point A to point B.
No.
It's really a story of expanding expertise across these different areas of, safety, health, and environment.
Yeah.
But those things are all interconnected.
Oh, totally.
So, we have his formal training, we have his on-the-ground experience, a whole bunch of certifications, and a very defined set of skills.
Yeah.
So today we're really trying to get at the core of, what does it take to manage health and safety and environment effectively in high-stakes environments?
Yeah, excellent.
And what are those key skills and experiences that build toward that, sort of ultimate goal of a zero-incident workplace?
A zero-incident workplace.
That's the dream.
That's the dream, yeah.
That's what we're all shooting for.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So right after he finished his medical training in 2008 at the Medical Assistant College, MOH.
Yep.
He had a pretty formative experience.
I would say so, yeah.
He worked as a freelance offshore medic right after this Babcock Sea process safety incident in 2011.
Right.
Now, I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Just starting out in your career, and you're thrown into the aftermath of a major safety incident.
Yeah, trial by fire.
And I mean, specifically in the oil and gas sector, which is already
high risk.
High risk, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think that experience, taught him?
Oh, I think it must have been incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
To see firsthand, what happens when safety protocols fail.
Right.
I mean, that's a lesson you just can't get in a classroom.
No.
It really drives home the need for prevention.
Yeah.
When you see the real world consequences like that.
Right.
So, yeah, I imagine that was a huge learning experience for him early on.
Okay. So then we see a big chunk of time from June 2012 to March 2016.
Right.
Where he's a rig safety medic with International SOS.
Yep.
And he's working on platforms for Fanish Driller and Ensco PLC. And this is where I feel like his medical background really starts to blend with a much wider safety focus.
It broadens out for sure.
What jumps out at you about this period?
Well, the fact that he was doing so much more than just, treating illnesses and injuries, he was actively trying to promote a zero-incident culture.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
It is.
That's about being proactive, right?
Yeah.
It's about preventing problems before they even happen.
Right.
And he was also managing HSE initiatives, making sure they were complying with all the regulations.
Yeah.
And implementing safety management systems that were lined up with, local and international standards.
Right.
So this suggests that he was already developing a deep understanding of the regulations and, the importance of structured safety frameworks.
Yeah.
Plus, he was giving safety briefings and, inducting new workers.
Right.
Emphasizing the importance of safety equipment and how to respond in an emergency.
Yeah.
So right from the start, he's instilling the safety-first mindset, which is key to preventing accidents and building a good safety culture.
And it wasn't just about that initial briefing, right?
Yeah, it goes beyond that.
He was maintaining a training matrix.
Right.
So that's about making sure everyone is competent, making sure they have the skills and knowledge to work safely.
Exactly. Ongoing training and development.
Exactly.
And then you see that he was physically inspecting safety equipment, including life-saving gear. So that shows a real attention to detail and a commitment to making sure that the tools they need to stay safe are in good working order.
And I thought it was really interesting that he was facilitating bilingual safety meetings.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
You're really important.
Because in these diverse work environments, you got to make sure that everybody, regardless of what language they speak, understands the safety protocols.
Absolutely. You can't have misunderstandings.
Yeah.
That could lead to accidents.
And it looks like he was also doing workplace audits.
And permit-to-work inspections. So these are really proactive measures to identify potential hazards before work even starts.
Exactly. You're identifying hazards and making sure high-risk tasks are properly controlled.
And then you see he was translating work procedures for multilingual teams.
Very practical.
So practical.
Making sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to safe work practices.
Exactly.
Bridging those communication gaps.
And it's also interesting to see that he has experience with all these, industry-specific systems.
Oh, yeah, like SAP, IADC, daily reporting, RIM drill, AMOS.
Yeah, so it seems like he understands how safety integrates with the broader operational stuff.
It's all connected. It's not just a separate thing.
Yeah, and he was even managing food hygiene.
Right, which might seem separate at first glance.
Yeah.
But especially in those remote offshore environments. Yeah. Everyone's health and well-being is directly linked to how well things operate.
It is.
Like to safety, if people are getting sick, you don't have a fully functional workforce.
You can't operate.
Exactly.
And it seems like he was collaborating with a bunch of different departments.
Yeah, which is important.
On health and safety concerns.
You need buy-in from everybody.
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility.
Okay, so let's move on to the period from March 2016 to July 2024.
Okay.
So he's an HSSE medic with International SOS on an ExxonMobil platform.
Yeah.
So it looks like, same kind of responsibilities, but maybe with a more strategic element.
It seems that way, yeah.
What stands out to you here?
Well, I think the emphasis on those proactive safety measures is really ramping up.
Yeah.
So he's still doing the routine medical stuff and equipment checks.
Right.
But now he's also conducting drill exercises and assessments.
Right.
And then writing up detailed reports for the client's SHE department. So they're really focused on continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Learning from these simulated emergencies.
Yeah.
Testing their preparedness.
Absolutely.
And figuring out how they can make their protocols even stronger.
And this is all happening during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. That's a big one.
So it looks like he was involved in developing those internal protocols and SOPs for dealing with infectious diseases like COVID-19 and influenza.
Makes sense.
It's a great example of how medical expertise is directly supporting, broader safety and operational resilience.
Absolutely. You need that medical expertise.
Especially in a crisis situation.
Especially in a crisis, yeah.
And he's still maintaining that perfect record with the food safety program.
Yeah. 0 food-related illness cases.
Which is incredible.
It is impressive.
Especially in that kind of environment.
Yeah, that's no small feat. Shows a real commitment to preventative health measures. As part of overall safety.
He was also monitoring safety compliance, making sure chemicals are labeled properly, all the SDS sheets are up to date.
Important stuff.
Safety signs are in place.
Yeah, making sure workers have the information they need to handle things safely.
And he was providing safety KPI data for reports. And hosting those quarterly safety committee meetings.
Which is all about, tracking performance, communicating, and making sure everyone's accountable.
Okay, now what about his time at the Sacramedic smelting factory?
So that's interesting.
Different industry?
Different industry, but you see a lot of the same skills and principles being applied.
Yeah, you do.
So still doing safety briefings and inductions, medical assistance, worksite safety inspections, delivering safety talks.
So it shows that these core principles of, health and safety management, they're transferable.
They are. They apply across different industries, especially in high-risk environments.
And he was developing and implementing emergency response plans, maintaining medical records, conducting first aid and CPR training,
essentials,
participating in safety committees.
All those things contribute to a strong safety culture, no matter what industry you're in.
And it's really great that the CV explicitly mentions his role in promoting a culture of safety excellence.
Oh, yeah. I like that part.
Through leading by example.
Right.
And fostering open communication.
That's so important.
About safety issues.
Yeah, it's not just about the procedures. Yeah. It's about creating an environment where people value safety and feel comfortable speaking up if they have concerns.
And he was involved in incident investigations, which is crucial.
It is.
For learning from mistakes.
Yeah.
And preventing them from happening again.
Continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement.
Based on real-world experience.
All right. Now let's talk about his current role.
Okay.
So since July 2024, he's been a medic with SKRC Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Back on an ExxonMobil platform.
Back to oil and gas.
Back to oil and gas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a return to a more focused medical role.
I'd say so, yeah.
But now he has all this experience in,
that HSSE experience.
Yeah. Broader HSSE consideration.
Exactly. He's coming at it from a much more holistic perspective now.
And he's still managing the food safety program.
Right. Still keeping that perfect record.
0 food-related illnesses.
Really impressive.
And he's still involved in updating safety briefings and inductions.
Yeah, so he's still shaping the safety culture on board.
Even though his role is primarily medical.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the big picture here.
Okay.
What are the core areas of expertise that you see?
Well, the CV lists things like occupational safety management, medical expertise,
right,
compliance promotion, process enhancement, training and education.
These aren't just like, titles.
No, they're backed up by years of experience.
Yeah, real-world experience.
For example, his success in managing food safety.
Right.
That's a tangible result of his skill and process enhancement.
Exactly. And all that experience he has conducting audits and inspections, that supports his expertise in compliance promotion and industry standards adherence.
He knows the regulations, and he's making sure those standards are being met.
Yeah.
And even embedded into how they do things every day.
And he was collecting data for those KPI reports.
Right.
Which links to data survey and research and documentation accuracy.
Exactly. He understands the importance of data in making good decisions about QHSE.
It's clear how these core expertise areas have developed over his career.
They have, yeah.
Now, what about those soft skills?
Oh, those are so important.
The CV lists strong communication, multitasking, fast learner, leadership, problem solving.
All essential skills.
We've already seen the strong communication in action.
Yeah, those bilingual safety meetings.
Yeah.
And the toolbox talks.
What about the other ones?
Well, multitasking would have been crucial in those roles where he was juggling so many things at once.
Right.
Medical responsibilities, safety initiative.
All under pressure.
And being a fast learner is important in a field that's always changing, right?
Absolutely. New regulations, new technologies.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt.
And then leadership. I mean, he was leading safety meetings.
Yeah.
Developing emergency response plans.
Right.
Promoting that safety culture.
All clear signs of leadership.
And then problem solving. He was involved in incident investigations, identifying hazards, implementing corrective actions.
Exactly. He's not just identifying problems.
Right.
He's finding solutions.
Okay. And then there's that huge list of, technical and digital skills.
Oh, yeah. It's impressive.
It goes way beyond just knowing how to use a computer.
It does. It shows that he's comfortable with all sorts of different software and platforms.
Yeah. He knows how to use media manipulation software, data analysis tools, industry-specific business management systems, photo editing software.
It's a modern skill set.
Communication platforms. Yeah. E-learning platforms, survey tools.
He can handle it all.
He can handle it all.
And that's important because technology is playing a bigger and bigger role in QHSE.
It is.
So, for example, his experience with those data analysis tools suggests that he can analyze safety data, identify trends, and use that information to make better decisions.
And all that experience with those business management systems shows that he understands how QHSE integrates with the wider organization. And his skills in using media manipulation software and e-learning platforms means that he can communicate safety information effectively in all kinds of different formats.
Right, which is important when you're trying to build a strong safety culture across a diverse workforce.
And even something as simple as knowing how to use survey tools that allows him to collect feedback and identify areas for improvement. Okay, and then, of course, there are all those certifications.
Right. And his master's degree.
A master's in occupational safety and health risk management.
It's a big investment in his professional development. It is.
Shows real dedication.
So each of those certifications represents a specific body of knowledge.
Right. Yeah.
And a recognized level of competence in a really important area. So, for example, the TBOSIAT.
Right. That's essential for offshore work. It covers all the basic safety training.
Then he's got all those advanced medical certifications, which shows his commitment to maintaining high standards of clinical practice.
Exactly.
And the HACCP provider certification.
That's all about food safety management.
Right.
He's an expert in that area.
And then the master's degree gives him that really solid theoretical framework for understanding and managing, occupational safety and health risks, which really complements all that practical experience.
So when we look at everything together, what are the key takeaways?
Well, I think, first of all, you see a clear progression from that strong medical foundation to a really comprehensive understanding of QHSE management in those high-risk industries.
And then secondly, his approach to safety is very proactive and preventative. You see it in his focus on training, hazard identification, emergency preparedness, and even promoting overall well-being. And then thirdly, there's this commitment to continuous learning. All those certifications and that master's degree. He's always looking for ways to improve.
So it all points towards that zero-incident workplace idea.
Exactly. That's the ultimate goal.
And it really is a holistic approach.
It is.
You have to pay attention to every detail, from equipment maintenance to emergency response protocols. And, of course, building that safety-conscious culture.
Right, where everyone feels responsible. So Azlan's career shows that to achieve that, you need deep technical knowledge. But you also need those interpersonal skills. You need to be able to communicate effectively, lead by example, solve problems collaboratively.
It's been really interesting to see how one person's career reflects the complex and crucial nature of those QHSE roles.
Absolutely.
Especially in demanding industries.
They are demanding.
And it shows how important it is to prioritize safety and well-being.
It really does.
So it makes me wonder, do you think this kind of integrated approach could be beneficial in other areas?
I think so.
Like outside of those traditional high-risk industries?
A lot of times we think about safety as just avoiding the bad stuff.
But
what if we thought about it as creating a more resilient and effective way of working? No matter what field you're in.